Okay, so in this problem, we're looking at dropping or retaining a flight. Talk a little bit about the airline industry. And so this is problem 721 in this current textbook. And we're looking at Pegasus Airlines. If you're trying to find the problem and you're possibly working in a different version, it's Pegasus Airlines. In an effort to improve the company's performance, consideration has been given to dropping several flights that appear to be unprofitable. And so they gave us first an income statement with a typical one round trip of such flight. This flight is 482. And they gave you some additional information. They tell you that the members of the flight crew are paid fixed annual salaries. And so this is where we start looking at these costs and saying, is that relevant to my decision? Flight assistants are paid on the number of round trips they complete. And you should start seeing what's relevant and what isn't. It tells us that 1/3 of the liability insurance is a special charge assessed against Flight 482 because, in the opinion of the insurance company, the destination is a high risk. The remaining 2/3 would be unaffected by a decision to drop Flight 482. So on our liability insurance, 1/3 is avoidable if we drop it. 2/3 is not avoidable. In C, it says the baggage loading and flight preparation expense is an allocation of ground crew salaries and depreciation of ground equipment. Dropping Flight 482 would have no effect on the company's total baggage loading and flight preparation expenses. So bagging has no effect. It tells us if Flight 482 is dropped, Pegasus Airlines has no authorization at present to replace it with another flight. So no authorization to replace, so there's no additional money coming in if we drop that. It says the aircraft depreciation is due entirely to obsolescence. Depreciation due to wear and tear is negligible. And so depreciation and then it tells us that dropping Flight 482 would not allow Pegasus Airlines to reduce the number of aircraft in its fleet or the number of flight crew on its payroll. So no impact, flight crew, no impact. And that is on the number of flight crew. So the reason I did this is I wanted you to just kind of see how I'm analyzing these numbers and what I'm trying to gather from this additional information. So then we'll look at the income statement that was given to us. Okay, so we have all that, and hopefully you can just fast forward through me typing all of that in. I actually thought I was paused, and so that's all the information from the problem. And then it asks us to prepare an analysis showing what impact dropping Flight 482 would have on the airline's profits. And so what you're going to have to do is go up here and analyze what is going to change if I drop this flight. Focus on your contribution margin and kind of keep that in mind. So kind of as a way to get started, what costs are not relevant to the decision? I think I would probably start there. What costs are not relevant to the decision? So they tell us that the salaries of the flight crew over here, they're fixed. So I would say that that is not relevant to the decision. We're going to have to pay them whether we fly this or not. Depreciation is what we call a sunk cost. That is not relevant to the decision. We're going to have to pay that whether we cut this flight or not, or expense it. Liability insurance. What they told us about that is that 2/3 of that is not relevant. 2/3 not relevant. And highlight this as well so we won't forget. And then baggage loading and flight preparation, they also told us that that would not change if we dropped this flight. And I got all that information from over here from where we were given additional information. And so if I'm going to come over and do an analysis, what I'm going to start with, and again, when we do these decision analysis, it's best to just put the information that's relevant to the decision, because if you throw other things in there, it just confuses you. Or confuses the person you're presenting this to, because I mean we're working for Southwest Airlines and we're trying to make this decision. So if we drop this, we have a contribution margin that is lost. We don't get that money, and that's $12,950. That came from right here, the contribution margin on the flight. Then we have flight costs that can be avoided if the flight is discontinued. Flight cost avoided. And we can avoid flight promotion. We can avoid fuel for the aircraft. We can avoid 1/3 of the liability insurance. We can avoid the salaries of the flight assistants. And we can avoid overnight costs. So with that, we have a net increase or decrease, I haven't put my numbers in yet, in profits if the flight is discontinued. Now this is just one way you would present this analysis. And so my flight promotion, I would avoid $750. I would avoid $5,800 for the fuel. $1,400 is 1/3 of the liability insurance. $1,500 is my flight assistant salary, and $300 are my costs. And so I'm going to be able to avoid sum these up. Oh, I forgot my. Okay, this is ridiculous. There we go. Sum. All right, so we're going to be able to avoid $9,750 of cost, but we're also going to lose a contribution margin of $12,950. So just looking at that, is this going to be a good decision? Probably not. Now keep in mind we're losing this, so I'm going to go ahead and make that a negative because that's a bad thing. These are the costs we're avoiding. That's a good thing that we're avoiding these costs. Go ahead and so the way I would analyze this, I would say, okay, is my cost I'm avoiding a better than the contribution margin I'm losing? And no, it isn't. So the net increase or decrease in profit, if this flight is discontinued, is going to be the sum of these two numbers, or you can, however you want to do that. $3,200. So this is a bad decision. And then I think that's it for that problem. Yep, that's it. Another way you could do this, just to kind of throw this out there for you, you could do 3 columns, and you could list everything like we have here, and you could come up here and you could say keep the flight, and then you could come over here and in another column say drop the flight, and then you could look at the difference. You could also set it up that way. Completely up to you how you do that. But this is suggested in that you're only showing the things that are relevant to the decision.